What was the most fucked up thing you saw at your school?
Story 1. Some kids were punching a mason jar lid that we used to seal a jar with some bug in it. They were doing it as some sort of who's tougher test. When the teacher sees this and sees they have small scratches on their knuckles, she proceeds to tell them that the big was poisonous and they will die very soon. Since they drew blood punching the lid, we were maybe 10 at the time, she made them write goodbye notes to their parents and make goodbye speeches to class. We were all tripping because we believed her too. It was wild.
Well, it's nice to know that traumatizing a group of 10-year-olds is all in a day's work for some teachers.
Story 2. Not so, but I did experience the aftermath. A kid at our school died once while out on a school camp. They were way out in the Australian outback. The teachers made barbecue for the kids and one of the boys for some reason ate the food kebabs without asking what was in them, even though his parents had filled out his permission form indicating clearly that he had food allergies. Long story short, hardcore anaphylaxis, throat swelled shut, fell to the ground, foaming. School nurse stabbed him with every single EpiPen they had in the medical kit. Nothing, nada. Dip frick, all happened. Picked him up, threw him in the van and sped out of the campsite at top speed down the road. They were so far out in the middle of nowhere that there's no phone reception, can't do anything, can't call for an ambulance, helicopter, nothing. Finally got to the nearest town, called emergency services. Helicopter arrived, loaded the kid onto it, started treatment, flew straight back to town. Never made it dead before the chopper landed. I was working at the school at the time. I had a job offered by the school to graduates which I accepted and found out all the details from the school nurse.
Wow, what a great way to teach students about the dangers of not checking what's in their food. Maybe next time they'll remember to ask for an ingredients list before chowing down on mystery kebabs.
Story 3. The bullied kid, other than myself, absolutely losing his goddamn mind and beating the hell out of his bully. There was blood everywhere, mostly on the kid. He was punching, he was kicking, he was slamming his head against a bench. He bit part of his ear off. No lying, he almost killed him, broke several ribs, several fingers, his ankle jaw. Apparently he had a ton of mental health issues and deliberately stopped taking his meds just so he was unhinged enough to do that to the bully. People talked about it for years after it happened. A buddy of mine became a teacher there. It still apparently gets mentioned. It's like a folktale over 18 years later.
Oh, how heartwarming a tale of mental health issues and violence that people still gossip about years later. Just what we needed.
Story 4. 2 things. I saw a girl bite another girl's nipple off in a fight. I also walked into a bathroom while a mentally disabled kid was peeing at the urinal with his pants around his ankles and freestyle rapping.
Well, that sounds like a lovely day filled with wholesome experiences. I'm sure you'll cherish those memories for years to come.
Story 5. Someone used a deer carcass to tie the front doors together so no one could get in the school.
Well, someone clearly passed their MacGyver skills 101 class with flying colors, using a dead animal as a door lock genius.
Story 6. Oh dear.
I'm sure the deer is completely thrilled to have been hit by a car.
Story 7. Bright and early in the morning, as many kids are arriving to school, pretty popular guy comes running through the crowd chased by a group of 3 other dudes. A little bit of space opens up for them to run through, but all of a sudden one of the chasers stops, pulls out a gun and fires 3 right into his back, murdered right in front of a significant chunk of students. Very sad day.
Just your typical morning at school, a little bit of running, some gunshots and a murder, just another day in paradise.
Story 8. A new kid at our school grabbed the art teacher's scissors and threw them over a dividing wall. When the teacher left the room, they hit some girl in a different art class on the other side and one of the blades went through her cheek. We were held after class until he finally confessed and we saw the police at the school later. He had been at our school for about a week and we never saw him again after that day.
I'm sure that kid will grow up to be a real artist with aim like that.
Story 9. In grade 2, my teacher made all students step on a child as they walked into class because he left his lunchbox on the steps in front of the class. This child was mixed race and this was in the 80s and in apartheid South Africa. Those who refused got hit with a cane for not listening to their teacher, supremely messed up, and I will never forget it. She was fired a year or 2 later for various messed up things.
Well, I guess times have changed since the 80s. Now teachers just make you step on a Lego if you forget your lunchbox.
Story 10. Middle school girl had the sewing machine needle go right through her finger the left with the needle and thread just hanging out. Another kid had an X-Acto knife stabbed right into his wrist by accident, so close to the artery. High school girl was run over by a bus. It backed over her, then pulled forward over her again. We had fundraisers and pep rallies for her. She made a full recovery and is still playing sports at almost 40 now. Sex in the bathroom. Endangered turtle was found during construction. All construction had to stop until the turtle moved out. PE teacher, you know how that one goes.
Oh, I'm sure those needle and knife incidents were just occupational hazards in home ec class. And who needs a school nurse when you can just leave sharp objects sticking out of your body? As for the bus incident, nothing says school spirit like fundraising for someone who was flattened like a pancake, and I hope that Turtle at least got a diploma for causing construction delays. And let's not forget about the ever-popular extracurricular activity of bathroom sex. It's not like we have actual sports teams to distract us from that kind of thing. And as for the PE teacher, well, I'll leave that one up to your imagination.
Story 11. It was all that anybody talked about for months afterwards. I was working on the school's first aid staff at the time, so we got to hear the full, unfiltered story about what happened after that. We first aid officers all had to learn how to administer adrenaline, even though technically it was illegal for us to do so since it was beyond the scope of our official training. The school decided that it was more important for us to learn how to treat anaphylaxis rather than worry about red tape, though.
Well, that's one way to teach students about the consequences of sneaking a peanut butter sandwich into the classroom.
Story 12. The ambulance in front of the school because 2 guys glued their eyelids shut with a quick-dry adhesive.
Oh, just another day at school. Glued eyelids and ambulance sightings, nothing out of the ordinary here.